Hello everybody, my name is Mark Ward. I'm speaking to you from the USAID headquarters in Washington, D.C. I wish I were there with you in Southern California, but I appreciate the opportunity to address you nonetheless, and thanks to the SHINE leadership for inviting me. Last October, we did another tape recording like this to talk about the perspectives on the humanitarian response to the flooding in Pakistan, and I've been impressed and pleased to know that since then, the global impacts that SHINE is having around the world, not just in Pakistan, but also through the volunteer medical teams and emergency health care that you provided in Haiti, and the help that you provided after the terrible earthquake and tsunami in Japan. So my message to SHINE is very simple: keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Over the past year, I've spoken a lot about the importance of deepening the bench, to use a baseball term, of civil society organizations and nonprofits, the private sector, and other potential sources of expertise and resources for international disaster response. It's very clear to me and everybody else who's involved in disaster response that even as capable and committed as we, the international community, and the big UN agencies, the big donor agencies like USAID may be, and as forthcoming as the Congress may be with funding, we have to reach beyond our usual community to incorporate new contributors and actors to grow our collective response capacity. Speaking for the United States, even in a time of budget austerity, which everybody is aware of, we continue to dig deep and have done a great deal to meet our humanitarian mandate, and we thank the Congress for their support there. We've spent more than $750 million over the past year to help those affected by the flooding in Pakistan, more than $62 million to cope with an outbreak of cholera in Haiti. And in the last several months, we've been engaged in very challenging efforts, even dangerous, in Libya, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Sudan, and the new South Sudan, responding to humanitarian needs both from political crises and natural disasters. Right now, for example, the U.S. is a major donor of emergency assistance in the Horn of Africa in the wake of the worst drought conditions in 60 years, providing more than $360 million in life-saving food, water, nutrition, and other help. And this isn't just USAID acting alone within the U.S. government. While we are the coordinator for the U.S. government in an international disaster response, many other parts of the government are also very active, including the Departments of State, Defense, Health and Human Services, FEMA, and others. But just as we've brought this whole of government approach to disaster response around the world, as I said before, we need new players as well. For all of our efforts and all of our wealth and expertise, the U.S. government and the traditional humanitarian assistance community is in danger of, frankly, losing the fight to respond to natural disasters adequately. And we really welcome all the help we can get. We should be broadening the community of potential responders in a more coordinated and effective way to strengthen the indigenous response to prepare for and respond to disasters. And this is where organizations like SHINE can help a lot. In all response, we devote a lot of time and expertise to validating what's actually needed on the ground. And this is our message to all organizations that want to partner and work closely with us. With all due respect to the wonderful journalists who go out into disaster areas to carry that message and that image home into living rooms across the United States with their reporting live from the scene, our professional judgment and expertise of what's really needed may be different than what they're broadcasting on the television. U.S. companies often are seeking to donate supplies and equipment, services, or expertise in support of disaster efforts, and that's terrific, and we welcome their interest. But we have to constantly remind them that there are communities and organizations with real needs on the ground that have to be checked with, that have to be met, and it's an organization like the Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance at USAID, or other official organizations on the ground, or well-known NGOs that can provide that kind of input to be sure that the the goods, the services, the expertise that the private sector or other organizations are offering is really what's needed. Ultimately, of course, the success of disaster assistance in reducing vulnerability and strengthening the response revolves around local capacity. The first responders are also always the local responders. And you know this very well. It's evident in Todd Shea's example and the work of Shine Humanity from the earthquake in Pakistan through the floods there last year up to today. As we all know, Pakistan has a robust and deep civil society and NGOs with tremendous experience that added tremendously to our capacity to respond in the floods last year. Our administrators said recently that USAID is no longer satisfied with writing big checks to big contractors and calling that development. We've accelerated our funding to local NGOs and local entrepreneurs, those that have cultural knowledge and in-country experience to ensure that assistance leads to real local institutions and lasting durable growth. And this is particularly true in disaster response, and the Pakistan example from the floods is a great example. We've set a target for ourselves to partner with local organizations to ensure that sustainable development and in situations of disaster response that we foster a faster and more durable transition to recovery that you could really only guarantee by working with those local organizations. And also working with local communities to build those civil society groups, to develop their own capacity, their own community resilience, as opposed to building the ability and the capacity of an outside organization to step in when needed. There are great examples around the world that we've all seen. I was recently in Nepal, and to see the work that's been done at the community level in Kathmandu to ready organizations centered around youth for what they would do to go in to provide basic first aid in the event of an earthquake. That kind of first responder capacity at the local level among young people, block to block in the city of Kathmandu, will someday save lives. So we encourage volunteer, business, and private sector communities to do the same. As you know, sometimes a diaspora community can provide entree, or a local business partner knows the best counterparts and can do more. So the groundwork can also be put in place not in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, but after the order is restored in preparation for the next time. So all the capacity building, all the networking, all the connections that you are helping to make happen now, before the next disaster strikes, will really pay off. In addition to Pakistan, our recent experience in Libya, our ongoing experience in Libya, underscores the importance of building these relationships and these linkages before disasters hit. Prior to the political crisis and conflict in that country, there was only limited open civil society functioning in Libya. Local organizations were not prominent or well known to us or our traditional NGO partners. We were also constrained by the insecure environment from a U.S. government presence, much beyond the city limits of Benghazi. But working through emerging civil society structures, we've been able to pre-position food and emergency relief supplies, move medical teams and medical health clinics to areas of need, and get humanitarian assistance to populations in need during a conflict. We've already started talking at USAID about the heroes among the civil society organizations in Libya who really stuck their necks out to help the people in those cities that were constantly being bombarded and the impact that they had. This is as you'll see from the logo behind me, this is the 50th anniversary of the founding of USAID. And in looking forward, we want to work ourselves out of a job and not count the number of years that we've been providing assistance, but look at how many countries have graduated and don't need our help anymore. And in disaster response, this is called disaster risk reduction. We can't prevent earthquakes or weather events, but by investing in capacity, infrastructure, health systems, and management, and addressing the factors that make populations more vulnerable, we can really dramatically reduce the impact of those disasters that we can't avoid. Some of you are very aware, for example, of the very small but very effective contribution or investment that we made in the disease early warning system in Pakistan with the World Health Organization and Pakistan's Ministry of Health. Working with those organizations before the floods hit last year, we were able to help Pakistani health workers monitor disease outbreaks and mobilize resources quickly so that if a case of suspected cholera, for example, were found in a village during the floods, this disease early warning system came into action, mobilized resources, medical personnel, a community outreach program to tell people what to do to stop the spread of the disease if it was there. And we think it's one of the principal reasons why we avoided a cholera outbreak despite all of that water in Pakistan last year. So as a result of that program and a lot of hard work, we avoided what could have been an extra disaster in Pakistan. That's just one example of where a small investment in disaster risk reduction really paid off. And we encourage SHINE and every other organization to be thinking about ways to prevent or mitigate the impact of disasters in years to come. Because in our view, despite all the resources of USAID and all of the other donors around the world and all of the other international organizations engaged in disaster response, disaster risk reduction really is the only antidote to the frequency and size of disasters today. Sorry again that I can't be there to participate in real time and be a part of the discussion that I know you're going to have. It'll be great discussion after I speak, because I won't be there to defend myself, so you can rip me to shreds. But it would be fun to have that conversation sometime. I've looked at your agenda. You're talking about the right issues, and the questions that you have about how to work with us, how to better work with the private sector to ensure a more rapid, efficient, and effective disaster response are exactly right. And I commend all of you for getting together and having this discussion. And I look forward, and I know my staff looks forward, to reading the results and the findings and conclusions from your conference. Thanks for having me.